All right, the watch list for Tuesday, January 5th. Pause the video if you want and read this explanation, if you will, of what this watch list means, because it basically says I'm looking for stocks to trade tomorrow. I don't hold overnight, so keep that in mind. NAV in a range really down here between 8 and 10, but a nice volume pop today in a pretty weak market, although the market closed kind of strong. So it certainly looks interesting over, like today's high was 980, the high back here, 974, this high, 979. So up in the 985 area, this one might continue breakout, or maybe a red to green. I think it's worth having on watch. I want to watch GoPro again. Nice volume today. Over 10 million shares traded. It did give back some of its early gains. Look how strong this was early, and then kind of tapered off in the afternoon. But I still like this one. It has, I talk about this in a lot of my videos, it has these little mini short squeezes. And so really, it's really still in a range, but the volume is kind of an alert. Maybe we get a red to green, something like that in GoPro. And one of these days, if it gets over 20, you might get kind of a measured move. So while it's still in this range, I'm not in love with it, but it's not a bad one to have on a chart every day. Triple D, DDD, nice volume spike today. And almost back up to recent highs. If you take today's candle out of it, I mean, look at that. It was near a breakout and then just fell apart down near recent lows, and then in one day, almost back up to those highs. And keep that in mind, that's in one day. So I don't want to become a chaser tomorrow, but I do think that's worth having on watch for the next few days. I'm going to watch both of my favorite gun plays. RGR, which is Ruger, tried to break out today. Decent volume spike for this stock. Now look at this volume spike, 434,000 shares, right? And that's a pretty good spike on this one. That'll show you how thin this one trades. But it did attempt to break out over this little flag. And gave back some of its gains. And Smith & Wesson SWHC. Anytime I made a joke on Twitter, my new trading strategy this year is every time Obama mentions gun control, I'm just going to dive into these two stocks because they really run nicely on that kind of news. So Smith & Wesson, really nice breakout today. Still has another recent high above, so I like this as a potential red to green. So keep your eyes on that one. LEI, I don't love this one because it's so extended, but if you go to 15-minute candles, you kind of have a trend line here. So if you get up in this area, I don't know, the high 730s, 40s, 50s, this one might break out to the upside again. Gave a great setup this morning, and I forgot to use my head from butt remover, so I missed the setup this morning. I'll show it to you real quick though. Anytime you have a crazy mover, right, and then you get a gap down, especially if the gap down is associated with a weak market, so that pretty much took everything down this morning. Look what happens when it goes red to green. A lot of people say, what do you mean red to green? My definition is different than others. When I say red to green, I'm talking about the daily candle turning from a red daily candle to a green daily candle on an intraday basis. So I'm hovering over this candle to show you it opened at 629 and sells off, and as it comes back and gets to 630, it goes red to green on the daily, and a quick move to 750, and then had a secondary move all the way to 850. So that's a great setup. You could also show the same thing in Smith & Wesson again. Different kind of a setup, but this is with Obama talking about gun control all weekend. On this gap down, almost have to go to twos to show you the red to green. Look at that. On this gap down, as this one comes back up through the open, or even just as it breaks its opening 5-minute range, huge entry there. I'm really, really mad at myself for missing that entry because I heard the news all weekend and never thought to put SWHC on watch first thing this morning. And that's just a beautiful setup. I did trade this one and Ruger today for decent gains, but nothing like I could have had if I'd have just thought to have that one on a chart. So a little peeved at myself on that. Okay, let's see. LEI was CNIT. This one I had on Bounce Watch. I didn't catch a trade in this one today either, but I do like the green candle, the nice strong close on a weekday after piercing the 20-day after a pretty nice move, right? So looking for a continuation of this bounce again, maybe red to green tomorrow. CDZI, this one's extended, so I don't want to chase it, but after this midday pop here, it really held up pretty well. So if this gets over 580, like 582-ish, it might retest today's high. So on the daily, it's too far from the moving averages for me to really like. But then when you go to that intraday, might be worth a shot tomorrow, depending. You could almost argue the same thing for EARS. Big move here. And, oh, hold on. All right, I had to pause the video. I'm not sure exactly where I left off, but EARS, again, I said it's kind of extended, but it's on a 15-minute basis, it's kind of flagging here. So this one's also interesting over today's high, which would be 512, and then that might get it through this 520, and then maybe come up to 540 and break out again. EARS is a super tricky trader, and again, looks a little extended. But when you switch to 15s, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. WATT. This one's just interesting over 850. Again, it's a thinner stock. Today's little volume spike only got 272,000 shares, but over 850, this chart looks interesting. So certainly not in love with that one. Electronic Arts EA gap down today and kind of held this support area right around 65. So if it can get if it can get some shape on an intraday basis below 65, we might get a reversal there. I'm not in love with this one. I kind of put it in my notes early today when I saw it kind of selling off hard here, and then I looked at the daily and thought, you know what, that might be worth having on Bounce Watch for tomorrow. And then lastly, TXMD, and as I said in my video yesterday, setups have to form. These are all kind of the first day of the new year, and there was a lot of skittishness, and I said it felt like the first round of a boxing match where both sides were feeling each other out. And I'm talking about on an intraday basis. On a daily, the bulls took it on the chin a little bit, but on an intraday basis, let me switch to SPY real quick. On an intraday basis, look at that hammer candle, or on a daily basis, look at that hammer below 200, and then it closed at the high of the day. And so, that's an impressive close. But on an intraday basis, sorry, I have a baby in my lap just staring me right in the face. On an intraday basis, it closed really strong after chopping around all day. I mean, there was no trades really to be had. There was no direction. Put in its lows at like 11 o'clock, and then bounced, looked like it was rolling over. And then look at that close. So you do have a hammer candle. If I were just looking at the daily and telling you what to expect tomorrow, I would say, hey, this looks like it held that 200 support again and closed strong, probably up from here. But I don't make a living predicting that sort of thing, so I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But to me, this is a bullish setup, possible gap to fill. All right, so then with all that said, back to TXMD. I always like to have one or two bounce plays on watch. This was a super strong stock. You had the gap up, a very nice secondary move, and now you're like 4 days lower. And so I want to watch this one for a potential. You noticed these last few days it didn't break its early high, right? There was the opening 15-minute candle high next day and then today. So if we can get an afternoon break of its early high sometime tomorrow, I really like this as a potential bounce play. Hopefully we'll find some gappers in the morning as well. All right, enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.